Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve. And I got to admit that without a doubt, the single most common questions that I get regarding 2024 involves concerns over election fraud. And for right or for wrong, polls show that voter confidence in our election integrity is at an all-time low. Now, the good news is that some states like Wisconsin are actually doing something about it. Their Supreme Court just banned drop boxes. But other states like California, they're actually expanding their mail in ballot initiatives in, frankly, insane ways. Unfortunately, there are only a few true patriots out there across the country who are really taking a stand on this issue. And one of them joins me today. I'm joined once again by a true patriot and close friend of this channel, and that's Pennsylvania State Senator Colonel Doug Mastriano. Doug, great to see you again. I was telling you right before we went live here, it's been far too long. It's awesome seeing you again.
I am so glad to be back on with you. We're so proud of you and the steady voice of calmness and reason that you are out there.
Oh, right back at you. Right back at you. So, I've got some really cool data, some voter registration data coming out of the Keystone State, your state. This is regarding the automatic voter registration gimmick that Josh Shapiro thought was going to give the Democrats an advantage in 2024. Apparently, from the data I've got, it's backfiring. And this is coming from Scott Pressler, who moved from Florida to Pennsylvania to help turn Pennsylvania red. And he just published the latest registration stats. People, according to Pressler, people registering Republican 10-1. It's astonishing. What are you seeing there? Obviously you're on the front lines there. What are you seeing? What's the current fight looking like in Pennsylvania?
So Josh Shapiro comes out with this automatic voting registration when you go to the DMV to renew or get a license, And so obviously most rational people are concerned, how does, a PennDOT, Pennsylvania Department of Transportation licensed person, know about IDs and who's eligible? How do you screen, illegals from citizens? How do you know if that person doesn't live in a sister state? And so a lot of concerns about that, rightly so. And obviously, Josh Shapiro thought he could circumvent the General Assembly to add more Democrats to the voting rolls. And I'm not seeing 10-1. I actually have the hard numbers from PennDOT, and it's about 2 to almost 3 times more Republicans are registering than Democrats. There's a large block of unaffiliated independents, libertarians, green as well, disenfranchised from both parties, mostly Democrat Party, which has gone so radical. But it seems to be backfiring. And I don't have the demographics. I don't think we'll ever have that. But I kind of wonder if that's a lot of Latinos who are breaking away from the radicalism of the Democrat Party. I saw that last year during our campaign, and I think we're going to continue to see that.
Absolutely, yeah, and I saw it firsthand with at your campaign events as well. Lots of Latino. I mean, Rich Barris, People's Pundit, he's saying that the Trump vote, the Trump demographic, is shaping to be very similar to the Ross Perot demographic of 1992. Wow. But the difference is it's far less white and far less male, interestingly. So it's much more diverse in that sense. Yeah. In other words, it's expanding way, way, way obviously beyond that 20% that Perot was able to get. In your opinion, what states are doing the right things? Are you seeing any particular red state as a model for handling election integrity and just the election in general rightly?
The place we go to when we're looking at new ideas or legislation to help tighten up things in Pennsylvania remains Florida. I mean, we remember we went from hanging chads in 2000 to now people have a lot of confidence down in Florida.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, more confidence, more secure vote. And now the Republicans, when they're being elected, it's more diverse group as well. It's the Cubans in Miami and, and across the state. I mean, it's amazing, the Haitians and others coming on board. So Florida is the model state. And if we're going to do anything right, I think we look to Florida and how they went from, one of the most interesting elections in 2000, Bush v. Gore, to where people know that their vote counts. Pennsylvania, we got a long way to go. I mean, so the motor voter automatic registration probably won't play out, and we're thankful. I'm glad. And Pennsylvania has been trending red anyway for the past 2 years. We went from a 2 million voter registration deficit to Democrats to now it's only 400,000 more Democrats than Republicans. And I think with this, if this motor voter auto registration continues on this trend, by the end of next year, we should be solidly red.
Wouldn't that be ironic?
You know?
Poor Shapiro. Talk about a bad bet there. Yeah. But
Yeah, the irony, Steve, was though. So when this happened, we had session like within a couple of days of that, and so there was a lot of hand wringing, amongst my colleagues, and I was concerned as well. And the Senate leadership, to their credits, like, we don't know how this is going to play out. We looked at the rules and the laws that were passed in the 90s. Looks like he can do this legally because the General Assembly once again handed their limited power over to the governor. But at the same time, we think it's going to backfire. And their wisdom was right. I'm glad it is.
Yeah, that's all. As it should. I mean, I've heard it put that Pennsylvania is basically, Philly at one end on the east and Pittsburgh on the other end in the west, and Alabama in between. Yeah. I mean, it's good, hardworking, working class patriots, rural patriots who just love faith, family, and freedom. And so, the current makeup right now in Harrisburg and in DC, the DC contingent hardly reflects the values, it seems to me, of vast majority of Pennsylvanians. And also, to underscore what you just said, I told you I was at a YouTube conference in Dallas over the week. I sat next to a woman from Venezuela. She and her husband left Venezuela, I guess, about 10 years ago. They live in Miami, and they're huge Trump and DeSantis fans. DeSantis is governor, Trump is as president. And we were having fun talking about Latin American politics, Nayib Bukele in El Salvador and all that sort of stuff. We were just having so you see it. You really do see Latinos are the most pro-life demographic that we see in the data. And we finally see now they are fully embracing a party of faith, family, and freedom, and leaving the Democrats. Finally, they don't have anything in common with them at all except crazy Marxist identity politics. Are you familiar with the Southern California ballot harvesting strategy? And if so, I've been doing a lot of videos on it because it seems to have been doing really well for Republicans in like D+4 districts where they use evangelical churches as ballot harvesting centers. Yeah. If you're familiar with, do you think it's something that's replicable nationwide?
Yeah, we are. What happened there won us the House. I mean, because when Orange County, Steve, went blue in 2020, we're like, what the heck? Orange County is so Republican. And it's because the Democrats, they had the new rule in place for the ballot harvesting. They did it. We didn't. We're always behind.
We're always behind. Yep.
2022, thank God they saddled up and they did the harvesting. Our rules and laws are a bit different than California. We cannot really do ballot harvesting, but we're looking at legal ways that we can do it, within Pennsylvania rules, because we can't do a one-for-one copy of what California is doing. It'd be illegal, sadly. So, or fortunately, depending how you look at it. So,
right, exactly, yeah, and that's the thing. That's the strange thing is like every state is so that. Well, Ken Paxton brought that up in his original suit back in 2020 that Texans were being disenfranchised by states like Arizona or Georgia or Wisconsin or Pennsylvania that just weren't doing their due diligence. And so with every state, Alaska doing its strange, voting gimmick there. And it just, a lot of people just feel very disenfranchised from they don't feel like their vote counts. Which brings up, we talked about Trump a bit. I mean, you've seen the polls. I mean, we've had now 2 polls in a row, 2 polls in 2 weeks showing him with a 10-point lead. I mean, wow. Rasmussen just the other day released a poll that said 30% of the Democrats they talked to would consider voting, were likely or possibly likely to vote for Trump. What are you seeing? What's the read you're getting in Pennsylvania? Obviously, one of the big swing states there. He's up 9, I believe, in the latest. I think it was the Emerson polling.
That's right.
And up 7 in Michigan. Do you think we're beyond the margins of fraud? Are we seeing a real, just a collapse of Biden and a real movement back to, hey, I want to go back to 2016 again? We had a pretty good tenure back then.
I mean, as you know, the so-called Rust Belt. We got to think of a better name for it. You know, the industrial center of
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, because
Yeah.
that's a bit denigrated.
Yeah,
But
sure. Absolutely.
entire counties, Steve, that and you know this, that were solid blue for decades. You know, now solid red, and and I won all those counties. In fact, I won 50 some out of 67 counties across the state, and many of those used to be just a decade or two ago, solidly Democrat. And so, I mean, that's why last year didn't make a lot of sense. The outcome. I won by 70,000 by votes same day in person voting, but lost over 90% of the votes. I think mail in went for Shapiro. It didn't add up with what we saw firsthand across the state with our rallies compared to my opponent and his pitiful turnouts. And with a basement strategy similar to Biden, and it didn't trend even with so that's
Right.
vignettes. Those are one-offs maybe. Well, it didn't trend right either with voting registration and how it's been trending so red, so
Right.
dramatically red. 3-1 or 2-1 in during last year's cycle, and it just didn't make sense. And so a lot of people, and so we deal with this every time there's a loss. Of course, I don't know if my vote counts. I'm not going to participate, and that's the frustrating part of politics is how easy, Steve, people are willing just to throw their hat down and kind of leave the game, or I'm going to leave my party and become a libertarian or independent. I'm like, this is not helpful. I'm like, if you love your country a little bit, just stay the course. Just get out and vote every year. It's not that hard. It's becoming so convenient now, and there's hardly any lines anymore except on presidential
That's true.
races. I mean, next month we can just November 7th we have a judicial election that will affect how courts rule in Pennsylvania. It might determine the outcome of the next election with some of their rulings. It's a big deal. Your county leadership that levy property taxes on you. Yes, we're paying rent to the government. If you own a house, it sucks. But how do you change it? By electing conservative county commissioners. I mean, so about 11 to 20% of the constituents actually bother to vote on these important elections that directly affect your life. And so I'd say, stay the course, redouble your efforts, find candidates that you believe in, volunteer, knock on doors. If you don't have time, donate. If you can't find anyone you want to support, then maybe you need to run for office yourself.
Right. Which is exactly what you did. That's exactly. A little bit of a little snippet vignette of your bio, which is pretty impressive there. Well, speaking of, you are up for re-election in 2024. For your Pennsylvania Senate seat. So how are you preparing for the coming battle?
Well, just mostly by doing my job, by being around. I have two full counties, Adams County, Gettysburg, the center of it, and Franklin County, Chambersburg, the center of it. And just, doing my job, writing legislation, being at events, hearing the constituents' concerns and doing something about it. That's one thing that I like about politics, Steve, is there's so much talk and so little action.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, but before NATO helped us in Afghanistan, the U.S. Army used to have a derogatory thing for NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. We'd say no action, talk only. So that's politics, NATO.
Right. In a nutshell, isn't it? Yeah. That's right. And military contracts or something like that. Right. Yeah. That's great. No, I know you've always been a man of action from day one, which is what sets you apart. How are you feeling about some of the other races coming up? We're talking about Kari Lake a bit in Arizona. Before we went live, and also the return of the king himself, number 45, his prospects for being number 47. What's your sense of what we're seeing in 2024?
We have a primary for a purpose, and I went through a contentious primary last year, although I won it by 25 points or whatever. It was really.
You're being modest, dude. I mean, you crushed it the way Trump is crushing this. I mean, you crushed it. They called that thing in like 15 minutes. I was there. That night at the victory party. That was awesome. Sorry, I just had to interject for everybody if they didn't know.
That was a great memory.
Now you crushed it.
When you came over and talked to me, and then I started getting phone calls, I'm like, it's too early. It's not even 9 o'clock yet. I'm like,
that's right. Now we just arrived. We just showed up. What was going on? It wasn't even a con, and that was a very crowded primary. I think, what was it, about 7 of you, 8 of you or so?
9 on the ballot.
Nine.
And there
There you
was
go.
15 before the petition drive to get on the ballot. Okay, so
Right.
Steve, let me cover this real quick. So we had nine on, and this is related to your question. We had nine on the ballot last year for my race for governor in the primary. Uh, about 22 to 24 million dollars was spent in the primary, and much of it against me by
Right.
this one organization in the area. Um, Won it, overwhelming. Next three candidates, second, third, and fourth place together, would catch up to me if they added all their numbers together. There was a big move, remember, by the establishment to align behind Lou Barletta to try to.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They
It
were
didn't
hoping
help
it, right.
them.
They were hoping that he was going to take you out, right? If they all aligned up about it, it was pathetic. But yeah.
And then I go into general election, and only like two or three of my opponents endorsed me, supported me, asked how they could help. So all these guys that talk about unity when they're running for office,
Yeah.
did
Exactly.
this, walked away.
Yep.
And then what did I have to spend in a general election? I was told you're going to win. People will line up behind you. The donors will show up. They never showed up. I was
Yeah.
actually told by, we talked about this. The Republican Governors Association literally
Yeah.
told me to
RGA.
F off. He used
Yep.
the word
Yep.
twice.
They were horrible. Yep. No, they were. I brought it up a number of times to talk about how the establishment, it's a uniparty in that sense. They actually will sacrifice fellow Republicans. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I say all that not to walk down memory lane because it's relevant. So I go in my general election, $24 million, mostly spent against me in the primary. General election, all we could raise was 10 million. So less than half of what was used and squandered in the primary. Here we have a primary now for President Steve, and hundreds of $1 million have already been spent. It's wasted money. Donald Trump's going to win. Nobody's even close. No one's even in the realm of possible of getting there, period. Why are we doing this? I mean, so we're gonna damage Trump. Some of the candidates like Chris Christie are just out there to damage him. I mean, similar to my primary last year. I mean, the comparisons are kind of iffy, but in that way, attack, and then you have a disenfranchised bloc. It might be just a couple percentage points, but that could be the margin of victory.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And that's how elections are won. They're won on the margins. Yeah.
Yes.
I agree with you 1,000%. Yeah. But you feel very good about Kari Lake in Arizona.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Excellent. But Trump's got this, obviously. He's got the nomination. And I don't know. Is it Biden? What's your opinion? Do you think is Biden going to make it to 2024? Is he going to shuffle his way to the election? Or are we seeing Kamala? Are we seeing Gavin Newsom? You got any sense on that?
I love the word shuffle. Makes me think of the Shuffle Off the Buffalo. It's like his song. The way I love it when he tries to run. It's like a mannequin trying to run, those stiff arms.
Oh,
like,
you're just so
stop.
worried. Does somebody catch him?
Stop pretending you're virile and young.
Oh, I know. Stop. Oh, God.
I think, barring shenanigans in some states here, it might be a landslide like 84 Reagan. I really hope so. I mean, really, Biden? I mean, the guy, he can't put two sentences together. I mean, what's going on in our country? And no wonder all these wars are going on. They're looking around and seeing weakness. They're looking at the United States, and literally the Saudis have this one comedian, and he just mocks us and Biden and Kamala Harris constantly. I mean, and it's all based off of truth. It's not even edgy. It's like, well, this is embarrassing.
Yeah. That's right. It's not funny because it's too true.
I know.
Well, it's again. I think it was Rich Barris again who pointed out. We had 4 years of Trump. We've got 3 years of Biden, and most everyone's saying, you know what, Trump was better. I don't like the tweets. I don't like the hair. I don't like the attitude. Whatever. But I liked the fact that we had peace abroad and prosperity at home. But with Biden, we got war abroad and depression at home, and I don't like it. So it's just,
we have Afghanistan 2 years ago. I mean, I'm still having trouble getting over that personally.
I know you are. I mean,
that's why I'm wearing my Operation Enduring Freedom hat. That's the Afghan mission. We have what's going on in Israel. We have this failed war in Ukraine where up to 50,000 are believed dead. I mean, we don't have the hard figures. It doesn't look well. And when you have, John Kirby, not the vacuum guy, but he should have gone to vacuums, but the retired Navy guy comes out yesterday and is like, there's not this endless funding of Ukraine we can do anymore. It's like, wow, even you guys are now shuffling the war that you encouraged and you prolonged with your policies without any. And apparently Putin, I'm no fan. And that we talked about Russian strategy, before I got into the gubernatorial race. I'm no fan of his at all. I believe in NATO and its purpose and our allies, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and all the border countries. I believe in this alliance that we have, most successful alliance in history. I mean, I'm a bit of an odd America first guy because I'm definitely, not an isolationist. I see the necessity of having friends around the world. But at the same time, when they're turning their back on Ukraine, when this administration that really going back to Victoria Nuland, who's part of that coup in 2014.
Yeah,
it's interesting that even they see the writing on the wall. But yet it's more weakness. And what does China do? God forbid when Taiwan's attacked. Oh man, we're in trouble then.
Of course, you got it. That was perfectly said. I think they're exploiting this as an off ramp, and they're just going to start. They're already talking about that. They're going to separate. Well, it looks like they're going to separate the appropriations for military aid for Ukraine from Israel. Give this immediately to Israel, and then debate it on Ukraine. So that's kind of the tea leaves. Like I think they're ready to kind of move away from there. But that's what happens when you put in this, or when you install this guy in office. The world begins to unravel. The world's changing, and Trump understood it. You understand it. A lot of people understand the way the world is changing. It's becoming nationalist, populist, tradition all over the place, even civilizationalist in like Russia and China and India and the like. So it's retraditionalizing all kinds of different ways, and the old globalist structures don't quite work. They don't hold it together anymore. And you have to think anew to navigate effectively in this world. Trump did it so well, and Bumble and Biden and the gang, they just well, I think the proof is in the pudding, isn't it? Tell people how they can support you, Doug, for re-election. I'm a big fan of don't send your money to the RNC, certainly don't send it to RGA, don't send it to these things, send it directly to the candidates. That's the way you can help. How can they help you, Doug?
Thank you. Go to DougForPA.com or DougForFreedom.com. Our Doug for Gov site directs you to these other two sites. So any of those, the link for donations is the same as last year, Steve. So I know there's a lot of scams going on, but ours is still the same that you used last year. And so I need the people's help. You were very helpful in the primary and general election last year. I'm thankful for you and your audience and for the love that you have, shared. You sacrificed so much to be on the campaign trail with us many, many times. And we're excited to have you as well in a couple of weeks at our Freedom Conference on Saturday, 21 October.
Yeah, that's right. I just heard about that coming back from Dallas. I'm like, oh, we got another Mastriano rally. Yeah, they're awesome, man. You bring out the Patriots. They're incredible.
They love you, man. It's going to be a good time. And plus, we're going to have if you're into Christian music, we're going to have the old Christian band Petra there. It's their last tour.
Yeah. They're still rocking, huh?
This is it. 50th anniversary.
Ouch. They were one of the. I became a Christian in 1994. I was converted in 1994. They were one of the first bands. I was a musician back there. I was a guitarist. One of the first bands I came across with Petra. That's awesome, man. They're still rocking and rolling 30 years later. I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, gang, you heard it. We'll have the link down below for you. Click on that link and definitely help Pennsylvania stop voter fraud, stop wokeness, stop liberalism by supporting someone who loves and stands up for and defends faith, family, and freedom like no one else, the one and only Doug Mastriano. Click on that link below and support his campaign today. Doug, thank you so much. Great to see you. Let's have you back real soon.
Thank you, Steve. God bless you. All the best.
God bless you too, man.